Alright, so in today's lesson, we're going to be taking a selfie, and this is going to be the easiest way to take a selfie with a DSLR, and this is the how to take a good selfie with a DSLR. See, I'm just showing, for example, of a couple things that you can do around your house to modify and to bend light. Light is a valuable tool, so you can use things like the mirror that I use. You can use the ETTL flash that I bought for like $100 off Amazon, and you can use some smoke like sage to create some cool effects, and a gel for like $20 that I bought off Amazon. Combine them all three and you got yourself some cool selfies. And with most Canon cameras, you have the rotatable screen that you can see yourself, so you press continue with focus, and with a 10-second delay, and you'll be able to see everything that the camera sees, so you can get in positions and basically make yourself the perfect selfie. So now I'm going to demonstrate how I'm going to pose and what I'm going to do to make this work. So these are my settings. I got it at 1/25th of a second, aperture 1.4, and ISO 100. My aperture is at 1.4 because I want that bokeh effect on the Christmas tree lights that I set up, and I have it on AI servo, and I have it on continuous shoot with a 10-second delay. This is a Sigma Artesian 85mm aperture 1.4. This is a sweet lens, perfect for selfies. It's kind of over budget, but this is what I use for portraits, and I like the look of this lens. I call it the Bokeh Master. It's just beautiful. I have my settings on ETTL manual zoom at 105. I'm going to change that in a second. I'm going to change it to actually 135, because with the crop factor of my 85mm on APS times 1.6, it's going to be 135 millimeters. So I got it set for channel 2 because my flash on the 77D is set for channel 2, and it's on slave group A, and it's -1 for exposure because I don't want it too bright. I want that smoke in the bokeh balls to really pop. I'm using a blue gel with a white diffuser on the ETTL flash, and my ETTL that I'm using is the Godox TT685C for Canon, and I'm using it to trigger my 77D is going to trigger this flash. This mirror I'm using to reflect my ETTL flash onto the subject, which is myself, for the perfect selfie. These are the Christmas tree lights that I'm using for the bokeh balls. I'm using sage as a smoke effect. I'm burning it in a seashell, and it will add a smoky effect behind my subject, and it'll look pretty cool with the bokeh balls and the flash going off at once. Okay, so I lit my sage, and now I'm creating this smoky environment. I'm going to turn off my lights. Actually, I'm going to keep this one light on so I can add that as an accent. And I'm going to press the shutter button and get in focus. And I've already selected a spot. I'm going to let the camera take a bunch of cool pictures. Bam! It's that easy to do a selfie, and you're going to see how cool these photos look after I'm done. So this is me editing. I'm going to do a quick edit on the best picture that I found, and sometimes the best picture always ends up being the last picture, but in this particular case, the best picture was the last picture, and it turned out pretty cool. So basically what I'm going to do is retrieve the highlights quite some bit. So I'm going to go in and retrieve the highlights. So I'm retrieving the highlights now, bringing the picture to life, and then the shadows I'm going to bring up. And in this picture you can see the bokeh effect. Bokeh balls aren't completely clear, but I got somewhat of a cool effect with the bokeh balls, but you'll see what it looks like when I'm done. It's going to be quite intriguing. So I'm going to bring up the shadows so you can see me, because it started off really dark. But that's okay, that's what Lightroom's about, and that's why I shoot RAW, because the recovery on RAWs are just epic. So the whites I'm going to bump up so it gives it that really that really cool like cinematic look. And as you can see on the screen, that it's actually giving it that cool look. Now in the background you can kind of see the strings of the lights, and when I turn down the blacks you'll see that kind of fade away. So I'm turning down the blacks now, and the strings are kind of fading away, and I have that haze from the smoke from burning the stage, and it added a really cool cinematic look there. So I'm gonna probably turn up my whites just a little bit to bring in some more color, so it's more of a harsher light. And I'm gonna add a little bit of dehaze to make it more black. And I'm gonna add in, turn the contrast. I'm gonna minus contrast on that, so I can give it that like kind of like that retro feel. I find when you minus contrast, it gives it a retro feel, and I kind of like it sometimes. It adds to the flair of the editing style. So the exposure, I'm actually going to bring up a little bit, just so you can see my face, and it looks kind of cool. And now you can kind of see where I'm going to bring down the haze even a little bit more. And now the clarity tool, I'm going to bring that up so you can kind of see me in focus. And that was actually the texture, is what I just moved up, was the texture. Now the clarity, I'm gonna see what that looks like with harsher clarity to bring down my blacks. Yeah, that's kind of the vibe I want. So as you can see in the top right hand corner, that I'm a little bit overexposed, so I'm bringing up my exposure to almost a full stop up. But that's okay. That's why I shoot raw, so I can recover those raw files. And then I'm gonna bring down the blacks just a little bit more to make it more of that dramatic look. And I'm going to bring up the exposure just a little bit more, and I'm going to bring up the clarity just a tad bit more to bring down those blacks, and then voila, I got that dramatic look, and it's pretty epic. This looks pretty sweet. So I'm going to bring up the luminance, because when I go 1:1 you can see the noise. You can see quite good detail. It's an 85 prime, so it's a 135 on an APS-C, because you have to times it by the 1.6 crop factor on Canons, 1.5 on Nikons and Sonys, but on Canons it's 1.6 over crop factor. Slightly different sensor size, but it's 135, and I kind of like working with that on a crop factor. A lot of people don't, but it blows some people's minds. But I like working with the 85 on an APS-C. It kind of looks cool. Now it's not tack sharp. It is on the eyes. But the reason why it's not is because I had smoke and it was in low light. So with a 1.4 of an aperture, which I had it set to, the low light it showed pretty good. Like, this is pretty good details. I'm not going to crop this photo whatsoever. I'm just going to leave it as is. But I'm going to bring up my luminance to kind of, I'm saying I'm going to start off with 25 and see what it looks like. It should give it that more smoother edited detail. Let's go 1:1. Yeah, see how that image just came to life there? It really popped, and it looks epic. So 25, it really got rid of quite a bit of noise. I'm actually going to bring it up to 32 and see what it looks like. So now I'm in 32, and let's see what the luminance looks like now. See how it was adjusted. Yeah. There's the adjustment of the luminance, and that's the adjusted look that I want. So if I were to go print this, it would look pretty good. Now I'm going to remove chromatic aberration, because I do that with all my photos, just in case there's a little bit of chromatic aberration. There's no point, there's no harm in removing it. So remove chromatic aberration, and I'm going to do enable profile corrections just to see what it looks like. It usually brings the lens up lighter. I can always adjust the exposure after, but I like doing it because it flattens the image and it makes the image more true to life. See how it brightened up my image? Now I don't want that image that bright. It says the corrections, that's what it's correcting to, but I still want to bring down my exposure so I don't lose that dark cinematic vibe that I wanted to go for. So I brought my exposure down a little bit. Now I'm going to bring up the blacks just a tad bit so I can, there. I think that's a pretty cool vibe. And I think that, my friend, is how you take a cinematic selfie with a little bit of smoke, a reflector off of using a mirror, reflecting an ETTL flash, and a simple gel that you could buy off Amazon with a cheap flash, and you get this really cool looking photo. So the only thing that I could think of doing is making this a little bit warmer and watch what happens. So I'm gonna make this picture a little bit warmer. Usually you do this before you do the lens corrections, but I'm just doing it because I want to see what happens to my blues. Remember, I'm adding yellow, so it's gonna make it look more of a lighter blue, and I kind of want that look. So I'm adding a little bit of warmth to this picture, and it has that baby blue look now. And I think that's the look that I'm trying to achieve. I'm going to add a hint of magenta, just a hint, to kind of give it that nice purpley vibe. Just a hint. Move it up a little bit, and then bam, you're left with a really sick cinematic look. I don't have to mess with the hues, the saturations, or the luminances, because this picture really pops. And I think this is a really cinematic photo. So this is it for today, guys. Quick edit. I hope you guys enjoy. Have a nice night, day, evening, afternoon, and this is my how to take a cinematic selfie. And I hope you have a great day. All right, ciao.